Hey guys. Hey Sarah. How are you, darling? I did not brush my hair, as you can tell. What can I say? I'm sorry you're not having a good night, darling. If you need to talk later, I will be around, so we can always chat. I'm here for you anytime you need. Okay, anybody else with us or oh look, you can see little Moo back there sleeping. Just see her head over my shoulder. That's so cute. The Moo. She raised her head and looked at me like, leave me alone, Mom. Oh, I know you'll always be here when you can, sweetie. And I'm sorry you're having a tough night. It's not fun. How many do we have? Is it just the three of us? Well, that means we're all special. And that's okay. Oh, Sarah, my love. I'm sorry things didn't go your way today. Sometimes it's an icky nights. Today was exciting and stressful all at the same time. I had to go to a doctor's appointment, which I didn't make the appointment. It's something when your doctor makes your appointment. Okay, I guess Doc is telling me we're getting started, and that's fine with me. So we're going to talk about Olivia Lone Bear. And imagine this. It's October 24th of 2017. And on the Fort Berthold Reservation in North Dakota, Olivia Lone Bear, 32-year-old mother of 5, okay, tells one of her kids she'll be home later that night. She borrowed a friend's teal Chevy Silverado and heads to the Sportsman Bar in Newtown, North Dakota. And that would be the last time anyone saw her alive. However, this case really is haunting because Olivia made it home. The family discovered her cell phone, wallet, cash, even the clothes she wore to the bar. So her entire outfit was at home, all left behind at her father's house. So what happened? How did she go from safely getting home to vanishing without a trace? And that's what we're going to discuss. And if you've seen the movie Wind River, you might think you know these stories about missing and murdered Indigenous women, or as I was informed today, it should be missing, murdered, exploited Indigenous relatives, which we're going to start trying to use that term. And so this movie, shows how they find the young Native woman dead at the reservation. The federal agents and the local law enforcement immediately spring into action. And within days, there's this multi-agency investigation, and we have everybody there. It's a dramatic shootout with the perpetrators, which were in this movie, were the oil workers living in what they called man camps back then. And which I do encourage you all, it is a good movie. But keep in mind that in real life, these families are not getting that kind of a resolution in the end. They can go for years or even a lifetime without any real answers or help at all. And Hollywood, that's all fiction. We know that. But the real story of what happened when Indigenous women disappear is far more devastating. So welcome to Trial Junkies United. Welcome back to the Truth Seekers, the Justice Warriors. I'm Z, your storyteller. I'm going to navigate the wilderness of justice for you. We're going to map the twisted roads where the predators are hunting and the justice falters. And as always, my ride or die Doc is riding shotgun.
Hello.
And he's ready to help us uncover the forgotten stories of the system that they want They want them buried. They don't want us to dig these things up. So buckle up. The path ahead grows bumpy as we're going to lead through another section of this nightmare that they call the justice system, and especially for the Indigenous community. So this case that we're exploring uncovers a harsh reality, and that's the crisis concealed in plain sight of murdered, missing, exploited Indigenous relatives. But what happened to Olivia Lone Bear? On the surface, it seems simple. A woman went missing from a small reservation town, but all the details aren't that straightforward. Olivia's father, Harley Tex Lone Bear, was who she lived with, and she helped take care of him. She had 6 children. Everyone who knew her described her as a devoted mom. They said she loved spending time with her. Well, it says 5 kids, but I was told one had passed away. So, she played poker, she golfed, attended concerts. So she had a full life. That night she disappeared. There is surveillance footage from a bank in Newtown, and it shows her stopping in a nearby store in that borrowed teal-colored Silverado, and then nothing. The truck vanishes. Olivia vanishes. But here's where it's going to get strange, because all of her personal belongings are at her home. Her phone, her wallet, her money, even her clothes that she wore out that night. So we have everything at the house but Olivia and the truck. So for 9 months, the Fort Berthold Reservation, nearly 1 million acres of North Dakota plains, guys. Think about that, 1 million acres. Coordinating volunteer efforts, distributing flyers, pursuing every lead from California to Arizona. This is a picture of her brother, Matthew Lone Bear, and law enforcement agencies toss the investigation back and forth like a hot potato. Hey, Matt, good to see you. I'm sorry, darling. We're glad you came by. We're discussing Olivia Lone Bear and what happened to her.
How you doing, Matt?
On July 31st, 2018, a civilian volunteer using sonar equipment discovered something in Lake Shawanakee, I think. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying. A rectangular shape resting in 21 feet of water, just 400 feet from the shore. When divers retrieved that teal Silverado from the lake, Olivia's body was there. But she wasn't in the driver's seat. She was secured and buckled into the passenger seat. She had her flip-flops in the vehicle. The autopsy said there was no definite cause of death, no trauma, no natural causes, no toxins, just undetermined. Now, this is where we get the Hollywood myth versus a harsh reality. Where the Rin River fantasy merges with reality with Taylor Sheridan's film, law enforcement agencies, collaborate and they work together. The federal agents come quickly. Justice is swift and brutal. The movie culminates in that shootout with oil workers and the man camps. So we get this dramatic ending for the cinema. But Olivia Lone Bear's real story couldn't even get the police to file a missing persons report. Okay, they called and they made a report the night they discovered she was missing, because it was actually Olivia's ex-best friend who was dating her father. You heard me right. Was dating her father. Ex-best friend. And so she was the one that actually reported Olivia missing. But when they went to call and check on the BOLO alert, which we know is for people to be aware of a vehicle, there was no record of her disappearance, you guys. It took nearly a week for even the most basic alert to be sent out to any other agencies. Okay? Wind River shows federal agents, in the movie, they take control within hours. Olivia's case was passed along among tribal police, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the FBI for months without clear leadership. So they didn't get that swift investigation. Olivia's family, along with other searchers, searched nearly a million acres of reservation land for 9 months. So that's really something to think about, is because she was not getting that great investigation. And when you have this kind of a mix-up, and right here we have the Indian offenders, this is part of the problem. And why there is this failure is there is a database that tracks the missing and murdered Indigenous women. Now, the FBI's Uniform Crime Report listed 2,415 American Indian or Alaskan Native homicides from 1999 to 2017. But the CDC data from medical examiners shows there were 4,821 homicide victims that were Indigenous. So that shows that there's only half were ever recorded by the FBI. And that's not even talking about the missing. That's the ones that have been found deceased. So the numbers we have are, for a lot of this, civilian activists are the ones that run, like Justice for Native Women. They have 600 names. The MMIW database, they have over 2,500 names. There's civilian volunteers with computers are assuming responsibilities that really should be taken care of by federal law enforcement agencies, but it's not. So we have Olivia's ex-best friend ends up taking Olivia's dad down to the station so that they can actually fill out another report. So this is why we lost time, okay? And it's nearly a week after she's disappeared. And we all know that the first 24 to 48 hours is the most important in a missing persons, report. But the family had to they set up their own search headquarters. They had tip lines. They had volunteers from multiple states. Official system had erased their daughter's disappearance from the record. So Matthew Lone Bear, he became the spokesman for the family. And he was criticizing law enforcement's lack of urgency. And that was that picture where we showed earlier with the boat sitting there, because they had talked about that the river or the lake needed to be searched. But law enforcement kept saying, well, we don't really have anything available. So he took a picture of the boats and said, put it out there saying, hey, this is what you have. So that's scary. And then after this, however, let me see, where am I? I lost my place. However, Lissa Yellowbird-Chase enters the picture, marking a dramatic shift in our story. Okay? Now, this is the truck that she borrowed. This is what it looked like, that kind of a coloring. Lissa Yellowbird-Chase is a member of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikana Nation who founded the Sanish Scouts in 2015. This is a volunteer organization dedicated to locating missing individuals in Indian country. She's part of a growing network of primary female citizen investigators and advocates who assert the law enforcement consistently allocates insufficient attention and resources to cases involving missing Indigenous men and women. However, Lissa's path to becoming a search and rescue investigator was anything but conventional. And excitingly today, I actually got to talk to her on the phone. That's why I'm a little discombobulated tonight, because I didn't finish things up like I should have, because we talked for over 3 hours. She is an amazing person, and she really puts everything into helping find these people. Whether they're deceased or alive, she's out there searching. But Alyssa's path was really kind of rough. She had childhood sex assault, sex trafficking as a teenager, led to addiction to cocaine and methamphetamines, then abusive relationships, homelessness. But in 2006, she said she reached the lowest point and she went to prison for 10 years for drug trafficking. She served two. According to the information I found, I did not ask her about that. But there is a book about Alyssa. It's called Yellowbird. So check it out. I got my copy, so I'll be reading it this weekend. And she was determined after she got out that she was going to transform her life completely. But here's where determination met destiny. In 2012, she'd heard about Casey Clark, a missing oil field worker, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to help find him. She tapped her connections from both sides of the law, former criminals, law enforcement contacts, to assist in solving the case. Casey's killers were convicted, although his body has never been found. Lissa has not given up, okay? She is still chasing leads. In 2016, her niece Carla Yellowbird went missing. Lissa used social media to share the names of the three men who were the last to see Carla. One of them, Guy, reached out to her and ultimately confessed, leading the police to Carla's body and her killers. So therefore, by the time Olivia Lone Bear went missing, Lissa had already established herself as someone who got results when the system failed, because she doesn't give up. In July of 2018, 9 months after Olivia disappeared, Lissa drove her black SUV with the license plate searched to a remote boat landing on Lake Saskatchewan. She had a 14-foot boat with a partially broken motor and a fishing sonar equipment. By her admission, she wasn't an expert at boating or the sonar technology. In fact, when she was talking to Doc and I today, she made the comment that that boat was really too small for that huge lake. But, she got out there. It was her and one of her volunteers, her friend with her, and a pup. And they went out. But she also had someone else with her, because she had a relative that had said his daughter wanted to come out. And so she said, okay. Nikki Yellowbird was 14 years old. Or no, let me double check that. Was she 14 or 12? I know I wrote that down because I want to get that right. Yeah, I think she was 12 years old. But she wanted to be, she said, I know I have to help search. And so Lissa was like, okay. But she told her, Nikki's dad, you've got to go with us. He goes, you mean on the boat? Big, brave man. But she's like, yeah, because this is my job and you need to be responsible for your daughter. I can't be watching her and doing my job. And she's got to wear, the life vests. And so when they got there, he brought his daughter, and they took 20 minutes to show her, this is what grass looks like. Here's what logs look like. And so they went and they found this information. Doc's gone crazy with the pictures. You need to go way. Just go way back, Doc.
I thought this was
Nope.
who you were talking.
Nope. That's a missing person. Hey, LaDonna, good to see you, sweetie. So anyway, so they gave her this 20-minute training session, and they're getting ready to go out. And Lissa had got a lot of guff from some of the police. They didn't want to help her. They kept saying things like, well, we've already searched the lake. You don't need to go out there. And she says, yeah, I do. And I know I do. She says, where did you go? And they told her, well, we went out, 30 feet. And she's like, well, it's further than that. So she gets out there. She has trouble with her engine. She actually thinks somebody might have done something to her engine because they were kind of fed up with, they didn't want her around. And that's wrong. When you have people that are there to help on their own buck, you don't turn down free help like that, especially someone that has already made her name in helping find people. And that's just wrong. And she should have got a lot more respect. But she says, I don't know what it was, but I was drawn to that place. I stood in the bay last fall. So she knew that something, was drawn to that area. So she methodically scanned the lake bed. She moved further from the shore with each pass. She was doing her radar detecting. She was doing the circle 8s. And finally, she recognized what looked to be a vehicle. And so she contacted the team and told law enforcement, hey, I've got a vehicle out there. And they had the gall to tell her, well, that's probably just some footings because there used to be a town before they flooded the area back in the 50s. She says, well, unless the footings have mirrors on the side, I don't know how that is the footings to a building because there are side mirrors. Like, duh. And so finally she did contact Deputy Corey Bristol, and she told him, I've located the truck. And it had gone further out than they suspected. And Corey Bristol was 70 miles away. And he just turned around and took off and came back because he knew she had it. I guess she had sent him an image and he was there. And she said he was there in less than an hour. Of course, he was a deputy. We all know they speed, right? Okay. But so here was this civilian volunteer. And it actually, the way Lissa tells the story, after she had told Nikki, this is what we're looking for. And Nikki was like, okay. And she was like, do you see anything? Do you see anything? She said they all had the sonar on their telephones. They had it on an iPad. And she said, all of a sudden, 12-year-old Nikki goes, could this be it? So the cops couldn't find it. The dive team didn't find it. The 12-year-old with 20 minutes of training found it. And didn't even get any recognition. So we're going to give it to Nikki Yellowbird. You go, girl. And I hope she thinks of following in her auntie's footsteps because that's awesome. I mean, I'm totally impressed. So Lissa said it took days for them to get everything worked out to where they finally went and pulled the truck out because there are so many different issues with the police. That was what that one picture was showing, that back in, I think it was in 1978, the Supreme Court stripped the tribal nations of prosecutorial power over non-natives who commit crimes on a reservation. So if you're a non-native and you go onto a reservation and you commit a crime, the tribal police and you aren't allowed to do anything with you. Now, does that make sense? It's their land. So the tribal authorities then have obstacles because if they have missing or murdered relatives, they'd have to figure out, well, who did it or how come? Because if it's somebody that's non-native, they're not supposed to investigate. That doesn't make sense. The math ain't math.
So basically, it's got to this situation years ago. We had it was an understanding that if you did anything on the reservation, they had their own set of laws, and you were culpable to making sure that you didn't do anything against their laws, and that seems to me no longer the case.
1978, they stripped them of that power.
Yep.
So then it goes to federal power. And that's what that one picture was showing, is that depending on who committed the crime is who gets to handle the prosecution. And that's with this case. Even when Lissa tried to call 911 to go past the tribal police because they weren't listening to her when she told them that they had found the vehicle. She called 911 going into Bismarck and was wanting to get someone to come out. Well, when she told them her name, they go, well, I will connect you with the tribal police. She goes, no, they're not listening. They go, but I have to, you're native. And so she ended up having her best Caucasian friend. They used Gemma's name because that was the only way they could get that 911 call in there. See, that shows the boat dock, and that shows how far the truck went out. And Lissa said what happened was the truck was in neutral and it was downhill. So the truck kept moving. So that while they were out there searching for it, the truck had been slowly moving further and further out. And so here those guys were like, well, we've dived in there. They just didn't go far enough, you know. And so, but they did find it. So the FBI, you know, they can decline to prosecute. They declined to prosecute approximately 1/3 of cases referred from Indian country. So when the tribal police do send the feds something, 1/3 of them, they go, nah, we're not going to do it. In North Dakota, they have historically declined 62% of violent crime cases, which is one of the highest rates in the nation, you guys. So the tribal police can't do it, but the feds who are supposed to do it have gone, no, we don't see a reason to do that. So we're not going to do that. So when these crimes happen, the victims fall through the cracks because of jurisdictional confusion. You know, it's your job. No, it's your job. No, that's ridiculous, isn't it? But here's where our story takes an unexpected turn. Lissa's success in finding Olivia created as much controversy as celebration. Because after the discovery, the Lone Bear family did not acknowledge her role. Matthew Lone Bear even called her a thorn in their side. He said he had asked her to leave the search months earlier. Now, there's the picture she had of the truck. Does that look like footings to anybody else? Not to me. So they even tried to imply that there was accusations of crowdfunding in Olivia's name and creating a hostile environment for the searches. And none of it was true. He was just being an idiot, really. That's what he was. He was an idiot. He was just trying to not give her the glory. And I'll tell you honestly, Lissa is not the type that she wants the glory. She does not do this for that. You know, she does this because she knows she needs to. Someone has to be out there. And she feels it's her calling. So, you know, Lissa defended herself. And she said any crowdfunding had been for the Sanish Scouts, which is her organization that she set up. And they're all volunteers from all over. She works with a lot of cool people. So she has people, she was telling me today that, you know, work in like ex-cops. She has people that are anthropologists, you know, all these different kinds of people that are willing to help out on different cases. So she wasn't taking anything from them. But this really shows the complexities of grief, credit, community politics. All of this can play into these moments when they should be getting some closure. But where this case really stands today, it's 7 years later. Her death's officially unsolved. Now, when I spoke with Lissa about this, she said that they pretty much know who did it. And it wasn't the gentleman. This is Lissa Yellowbird-Chase. Please pick up her book that was written about her called Yellowbird. and it details how she got started. And she is really an incredible woman. Like I said, I spent over 3 hours chatting with her, and that's why I kind of discombobulated today because she's really amazing to talk to. I would bring up a case, and then she'd go, "Oh yeah, we were out there," and I'd say, "Well, I was looking at yeah, I was there," because she said anything in the Midwest, we're pretty much there. She now has dogs, and she got them from a retired police officer from Illinois. And well, she actually has two. She went to get one, she came home with two. And so they are able to go in scent decomposition, decomp. And so that has really helped. But sometimes she still has to do just knocking on doors, she said, and talking to people and getting clues. In this case with Olivia, she actually picked up phones from people and took them to the investigators because they weren't doing it. She was doing the footwork, And so the FBI has now doubled the reward to $10,000 for information leading to those responsible. Like I said, they're pretty sure they know who did it. They obtained search warrants for Google location data from the area where her body was found in 2022. They do have details about her final hours. She sent a text to James Hoffhinke. I think that was the friend who lent her the truck. And that was sent at 10:24 p.m. on October 25th, 2017. And he is not suspected. Lissa's even spoke with him. She says he was just a friend that was concerned about her, that, they had some kind of a relationship. We're not sure what it was, but he would let her borrow her truck and help her out with her children, financially at times. So someone seemed to suggest she had decided, one of the cops thought, well, maybe she just left. She ran away, wasn't going to return. That she just gone partying, but her last message that was supposed to have been sent by her phone, she texted an ex-boyfriend at 10:37. Her Facebook was accessed at 11:38 p.m., but the investigators couldn't find anyone who attended a bonfire because in this Facebook, it talked about going to a bonfire or they went mudding with Olivia that night. But there aren't any other text messages suggesting she had done both. So they don't know. They have their suspicions and they have people that they think are involved. And where we might think that it has to do with the oil boom, because that's the Wind River movie, that's the route they take. More than likely, this was someone from her own tribe. So that's sad to think about, but it happens. It's not always going to be someone not from the reservation. So we need to figure out who was she with that night, because they hold the key to what happened to her. And someone's going to talk sooner or later. Someone's conscience has got to get to them. Because now I was told, even though they say they didn't release the autopsy, that she was beaten up. So there was some kind of an altercation. More than likely, this is just me. Don't come for me. As Stephanie Harlow always says, allegedly. I think that whatever happened to her, she knew them. And there was some sort of a relationship there. Because why else would she have gone out to meet friends, come home? She was supposed to be doing laundry. She's got 5 kids in the house, her father, and yet she leaves again to either go to a bonfire or mudding, unless it's somebody you know. And it has to be someone that you would want to go see, right? You're not going to go out late at night again. So That really makes me think it is someone that she knew. And these cases have become really a catalyst for some legislation that has happened, like Savannah's Act. That was named after another murdered Indigenous woman, and that was signed into law to improve the federal response to missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. But the Not Invisible Act created a commission to develop recommendations for addressing the crisis. But so many of these initiatives, they just don't get rolled out. It's really slow. The Not Invisible Act Commission took 2 years to be appointed, and urban Indigenous communities say the promises of these acts have never materialized. 2021, you had the Interior Secretary Deb Haaland announce the creation of the Missing and Murdered Unit to focus on solving these cases. The FBI has now permanently assigned attorneys to coordinate 5 regions to respond to these cases, but we still have Olivia's story. We don't have anything resolved. So what's happening? Now, the Lone Bear family, they're still waiting for answers. Her father, Tex, has received a death certificate, and it just says undetermined death. So who knows what's going to happen? She left 5 children behind who've grown up without their mother, but at least they know that their mom was important, and that even though she didn't get justice, she was someone that they could stand up for, that she was worth fighting for. One thing, Alyssa, because I asked Lissa, I said, do you see her? What happened to her children? She goes, well, the one daughter is, gone from home now. She's older. And once in a while I see her and she'll give me a hug. And so that's an awesome thing that she appreciates. If the male members of the family can't get their pride out of the way and say anything, at least her daughter realizes that, Lissa and Nikki are the ones that found Lissa. And I loved it that Lissa wanted Nikki to get some accolades for it, because I think that's awesome. That here's this child that wanted to do something because she felt the need that she was called out there to do. So that's great. So even in grief, the Lone Bear family has worked to ensure other families don't have the same failures. I'm not exactly sure what they've done, but that's what's been put out there. So what we know is Olivia went to the bar on October 24th, 2017. She returned home, left again in a borrowed truck. Someone was with her that night, someone who's never been identified. Despite extensive investigation, her body was found in the passenger seat of the truck, buckled in. No clear cause of death, they said. But I think there's more to that, because the Attorney General said he was not releasing the autopsy report because it was an open investigation. This happened 2017. Time's passed. You've had your time to say it's, an open investigation. It's time to do something. You need to start looking for other people to help by putting information out there. So questions that remain are, who was she with that night? How did she end up in the passenger seat, when she should have been driving? My question is, was she more than likely deleted when she was put in the truck? So, also, was anyone home that night when she arrived? Who saw her at the house? If anyone, maybe they were in bed when she was doing laundry. I don't know. What happened to those final hours between the Facebook activity and her death? Because something happened. And why has no one come forward? Because she talked about going to a bonfire or mudding, so there had to be other people there. So there may be more than one person involved in this. There may be a couple. Somebody's covering for somebody. And you know what they say, eventually someone's always going to talk.
So I was thinking it just has to be a big cover-up, because you don't put undetermined death when somebody is found in a lake, in a truck, in the passenger side and strapped in.
Yeah. That, please, that does not work. So it is, they're just, they're covering it. Some of them are covering up and some of them just aren't doing their job, is how I see it. But so hopefully someone, who has this knowledge, because it's been well over 7 years now. It's been almost 8. But what can we do? The FBI is still offering that $10,000 reward for information leading to those responsible. So if you have information, even if it's small, go ahead and call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Submit tips to tips.fbi.gov. However, beyond the specific case, we got to recognize the crisis of missing Indigenous women, children, and men. Every week, civilian activists add new names to the databases that they maintain. Families continue to search for their loved ones while facing the same judicial complexities and resources, you guys. Limitations that the Lone Bear family encountered, they're normal. Those limitations constantly face these families. They are not getting the help they need from the authorities. And they're having to turn to people like Lissa, who has the experience and is willing to go out there, knock on the doors, do what they have to do. Lissa does not do this for the money. Lissa quit her job as a welder so that she could do this. She's going through her 401k to support herself in this to help people. So consequently, the awareness serves the initial step toward change. We got to share the stories. We tell them, but we got to share them. Get people to watch, talk about it, demand accountability from the law enforcement agencies. If you live in the area, or if you just want to send them, a text, an email, you can get that information off the internet, you guys. It's Newtown, North Dakota. Look for the tribal police. Look for the, FBI's number. They have the, I keep saying, and I am sorry. I was really working on that. And then I just blew it toward the end here. But anywho, they've got to work on this. We've got to find the people to talk to and say, come forward. So support organizations like Lissa's, Sanish Scouts, that are addressing the issues and should be managed by professional agencies, but they're not. So Lissa, despite the controversy that goes around her role in the Olivia case, she continues to work, you guys. In fact, she just got home. She's been out on the road doing some cases, taking her dogs and looking for people. She's assisted numerous missing persons cases, often funding her searches with the savings she has. She symbolizes something powerful, and that's the idea that individuals can make a difference even when the system fails. She might not be perfect, but she gets the results, you guys. And the heartbreaking thing is that Lissa Scouts shouldn't even have to exist, because professional law enforcement agencies with the adequate resources and training should be managing these cases. In fact, they said that now they're going to send the FBI out to Indian country on 6-week rotations. What are you going to do in 6 weeks? Some of these cases are so old and so large. What are you going to do in 6 weeks? Because sadly, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're non-native and you're a federal authority and you show up and start knocking on doors, they're not going to talk to you. Would you? Look at what's happened to them. Nobody's kept their word. Federal authorities don't mean a lot to them. So that's not going to work well. The family shouldn't have to depend on the volunteers with the broken boats and the fishing sonar to search for their loved ones. But Lissa's success is both inspiring and damning, because it's inspiring because she demonstrates the determination to overcome the systematic failure, and damning because it really underscores the extent of the system's failures. So if you want to try and support something, go over to her Facebook page. She has her personal one, which of course is Lissa Yellowbird-Chase. And then she's got Sanish Scouts of North Dakota. Please go check these out. I'm trying to help her set up something where she can receive some donations, because like she said, she was recently in South Dakota on the Savannah standing bear case with her dogs, and Savannah still hasn't been found yet. So let's remember that and keep her in our thoughts. Even if you're not in their area, okay, you can do things like search the internet. Look when you're out and about. Some of these girls and boys get trafficked. In fact, Lissa said they get more money for trafficking boys. Think about that. And we don't talk about the boys enough. So we're going to focus some on some of the boys and men, because it's, we're not going to be one-sided here. But we need to try and support Lissa's organization, or if you find another, let us know. But Lissa's organization is really out there. And she said when she goes to South Dakota, sometimes they will give her a gas card, but it's for a gas station in South Dakota. And when she goes to North Dakota, she can't use it. So she can only use it in South Dakota. Let's say you're going on a vacation into an area and you see that on her website that they're going to be doing a search. Hey, volunteer for a day or an afternoon. We had a great conversation on all these marches for MMIW. And instead of everybody getting together for marches, which marches can be important, I'm not saying that. But what about if you get together and go out, if you want to walk, and go out and walk in these searches? They could use your help, because sometimes nobody shows up. And they get tired because they're the ones out there doing it. And, so let's think about that. If you're in an area, go ahead and see if you can be of assistance. If you can possibly donate to Lissa's organization, send her some information on her Facebook page. Contact me. I'll be willing to connect you with Lissa if you want to donate something. Let's help her out, because let's get these women and boys and men, let's get them found, let's get them identified, and let's talk about them. So I really appreciate you guys all being here tonight, because, justice, it also means we have to remember Olivia, that she's not just a victim. She was a mom who fiercely loved her children. She was a daughter who cared deeply for her dad. She enjoyed life. She played poker, attended concerts, spent time with her friends. She golfed. Therefore, as long as her case remains unsolved, as long as her family doesn't have any answers, and as long as Indigenous women continue to disappear and be murdered at rates far above the national average, the fight for justice is going to continue. So we don't want to forget Olivia Lone Bear. We don't want to forget the thousands of other Indigenous women's or men's or boys' stories that are untold, because there are a lot. We don't forget the families. We're still searching, fighting, and we're demanding answers. In fact, we have some missing people. Let's see, Doc, can you get us to that part? And let's take a look at who we got. Some of these, I hope. Okay, whoops. I think that was me. Sorry, guys. let's see. Let me find her. I'm hoping a couple of them that I had laid out tonight have already been located. I'm not sure about this. This was actually her and another young man ran away together. Children. Let me see. It says here. Oh no, this is Matthews. That's who she took off with. Let me see if I can find her information, because her name's Marcia. Marissa. Thanks, Doc. Marissa Lace Warren from the Northern Arapaho tribe. And let me see if maybe I put her information under his file. I've been known to do that before. Let me see, Matthew, what do I have for you? Nope, I have Matthew. Somehow I forgot her, so I don't all have her stats, but she's young, brown hair, dark eyes. She's supposed to be with Matthew. Let's see, do you have a picture of Matthew?
So Matthew is considered a missing person as well.
Yes, we have his picture. Let me see.
Yeah, this is not Matt.
No, that is not Matt. That is actually, that's Miracle Red Cloud. And she's from South Dakota, 13 years old. Hopefully she's been found. I usually, before I go on air, I double check, and I ran out of time, you guys. She's been missing since May 5th, May 8th. She's 13, female, brown eyes, black hair, 5'1", and weighs 105. In honesty, there's no news coverage on this child. So let's hope that they get something. And she may have been found, because I know one of the cases I was going to do tonight, they had found. So, you know. Marissa also is known as Lola. She was wearing white. The girl previous was wearing white shorts, jeans, and no sweater or jacket, a black and white Nike shoes. And it said they may also be connected to Colorado and surrounding states. So be on the lookout if you're in one of those. Her and Matthew were last seen at Great Plains Housing in Arapaho, Wyoming on Thursday, May 16th, 2025. So crazy kids. Who else do we have, darling? Oh, that's it? I thought I had I must not have put them out. I'm sorry. I usually try and do about 3 to 4. And like I said, I had a couple that had been found, so I had taken them down and didn't get them replaced. So we'll make sure that Sunday night, even though our topic, I'm not sure what we'll be talking about, we won't forget our missing Indigenous and exploited relatives. So we must remember, sometimes when the system fails, it takes ordinary people to do something with extraordinary determination to uncover the truth. I'm Z. This has been the Trial Junkies United. If you have any information on Olivia, you guys, please don't hesitate to contact the FBI. If you even know of another case that requires attention, let us know. Our email is in the description. We'll be glad to get in there and try and investigate. Thankfully, Lissa said that she would be willing to work with me on some cases because I want to be able to help. And so we'll be digging in deep. Every story matters, every life and every search for truth matters, you guys. Every killer relies on your silence. So don't be why we have to share another story here on our channel. If you know something, speak up. Because that wasn't a mannequin. It never is, you guys. Until next time, I want you to stay informed, be compassionate, seek justice. Okay, so thank you for coming tonight. I know some of you had a rough night. I'm glad you came with us on this journey. Hopefully, maybe some answers will come out. But do what we can to assist in any way we can. I love you all, and thank you for being part of the Trial Junkies United. We can use all the truth seekers and justice warriors we can find, because let's actually be productive. Let's see what we can do to really help and bring some people home, bring some answers to families. Thank you, guys. I'll chat with you later.